Hey, what up, Diego?
I'll say some racist ass shit, bro. I swear to God.
That's right, that's right. My boy, if I ask you to say a sentence, can you hear it in your head?
Is this that fucking thing you sent me a fucking
Yeah,
text
no,
about?
my boy, yeah. But can
Yeah, I hear your voice in my head saying the sentence. I don't get it. What is that?
everybody can do that, right?
Yeah.
Have you met anybody ever in your life who can't do that?
That's normal, no?
Yeah, that's how normal, right?
Yeah. Well, I hear you talking. It's gonna go through that process without you thinking. So, come on, bro.
All right, Ace. And my boy, when you speak, can you hear yourself in your head?
Yeah, I can hear myself.
You have an inner voice, right?
Yeah.
All right. How about JoJo?
Yeah, bro.
You can hear yourself, right? Yeah, okay.
Talk about balls, man.
Hey, bro. Luis. Big Luis.
Big, he just call me big in that bullshit. He don't wait in that dumb ass shit.
My bro, you can hear your own thoughts, right?
Yep.
Yep. Like everybody can, right?
Everyone can.
Okay, for sure. Thanks, my boy. Hey, and so, hey, bro, like you can you like hear voices in your head sometimes when you read or do stuff like that?
As a kid, when I used to read like books like Treehouse Adventures, or I forgot the name of it, but yeah, as a kid, I would give the characters in the books like their own voices and their own just like different sounds.
That's awesome,
yeah.
dude. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Hey,
Right.
thanks, bro. Thanks for that. Hey, I'm Solomon, and those are interviews I took about people having inner monologues. I had never heard that people did not have inner monologues, an actual self inside the self, an inner voice. I have never ran on this ever. I mean, I'm a big nerd. I love psychology. I love people that study the hard problem of consciousness, and I have never, ever heard of this. And everyone I talk to have also never heard of this. I found out something very strange if you go and look this up. Every video on YouTube is only from 2 or 3 years ago. And what happened 2 or 3 years ago? COVID. World was shut down. People were forced to have vaccines, forced to have masks. And what happened? Now suddenly we have people that say they have no consciousness, no souls, no thoughts of your own. You can look at videos of some of these people. They say they need to turn to other outside sources to form their own opinion. They can't sit quietly. They can't even think for themselves.
I do not experience an inner monologue, and that's the same as a lot of other people. And so when you, as someone with an inner monologue, label us NPCs or non-monos, you're actually engaging in a form of hate. Now you might ask, well, what goes on in your head? How do you think? That's a bit weird. But I would argue that those of you who do have inner monologues are the weird ones, and I find it a little bit creepy. You know, what are you thinking? What are you planning? What's going on in your head? Why is that happening? Because the truth is that I go about my life in a perfectly normal way. And when I need to form an opinion, I go to a trusted news site, and depending on how I'm feeling, I will take that opinion based on facts, and that will become my own. And so to those of you labeling us and demeaning us and making out that we're less than you, I would point out that we are in fact the majority, and you should think about who you're picking a fight with.
And if you go to Google to see what are the estimates for this, how many people actually have this, it says that it's 50%. So 50% of the people you've ever met in your entire life do not have an inner monologue. That is literally impossible. And if you look at the statistic, the thing that they use on Google, the first thing you find, it's from one man, one guy. It is not a peer-reviewed article by hundreds of psychologists and neurosurgeons and all of this. If this was an actual thing, it would be very well known in psychological studies and studies of children. It would be everywhere. It's not something you would be able to hide. Like I said, every video is from 2 or 3 years ago. It simply isn't possible. There would have been videos from 10 years ago of psychologists doing talks about this, from 14 years ago of people talking about this. It's impossible that all the videos are just from the last 3 years. To understand what's going on, we have to understand ourselves as a human race. For one, we have to understand that all human beings come from Africa. It is in Africa where we develop language. You see how fast this is, how complex and how deep this is? You can instantly hear what I'm saying. We developed this in Africa. And with this comes symbolic thought, comes the inner voice. This is why some of the earliest forms of art and abstract actual creation are in Africa. When human beings left Africa to Eurasia, some of them mated with Neanderthals who did not particularly have a language. They may have had very, very crude, archaic ways to communicate, but nowhere near this level of communication. If you see these videos, most of the people, and a lot of the people, they're Asian. Asians have the highest amount of Neanderthal DNA. It could be that this existed in a very small portion of people with probably a higher amount of Neanderthal DNA, that it was harder for them to communicate, harder for them to understand. But what has happened with the COVID vaccine and other machinations, they have forced people to think like this. They have forced a generation to become like this. This is the plan. And to know this, we only have to look at the children who were born during COVID. All of them, almost all of them, have deficiencies in white matter. All of them have deficiencies in talk. They can't speak right. If you do not have language, you do not have an inner voice. Okay. Hey, Jackie, what's up?
Hi.
And you got the COVID shot, right?
Yes, I did.
And what happened to your son?
So I got the COVID shot when I was pregnant. I believe I was 7 months, if not 8. So I got it, and mostly people feel different after it. I didn't feel anything at all, but my son, as he grew up, right now he's gonna be 3. As he grew up, he was speech delayed. It's very common with people who had basically COVID babies. So you can't understand him completely, but you can somewhat understand what he's trying to tell you.
So he can't talk very well, pretty much.
He can't talk very well, so he has difficulty pronouncing specific letters and specific words, but you can identify what he's trying to say.
Like he can't understand the language fully, pretty much.
Yeah, you can't understand the language, so we basically say he babbles because he just goes ah da da and stuff like that. There's specific words that he can pronounce, but there's very few that there's one letter that he can't pronounce out of the word. So when he wants to say what are you doing, he just says what you doing. When he wants to say banana, he just goes nana. What else?
And that's pretty normal for COVID babies?
For COVID babies, it's pretty normal for them to be kind of speech delayed.
How was it when he was born?
He was full term. He was basically a healthy baby. He was born with jaundice, which is pretty common on babies. When he was 1.5, I was told he was speech delayed. There's a lot of babies that are autistic. There's a lot of babies that have speech impediment. Right now, he's diagnosed with speech impediment, so he basically kind of grew into like pronouncing the words correctly. What else? He started experiencing seizures when he was 1.5. So we somewhat kind of believe that maybe he's speech delayed because of the seizures, because seizures basically affect the brain, and basically everything is connected to the brain. But before he got diagnosed with seizures, we were told he was speech delayed. He was supposed to be saying 50 to 100 words by the age of 1.5, if not by 2. But he only had I want to say 10 to 15 that he could pronounce correctly.
So pretty much at 3, he pretty much talks like how he would if he was 1, pretty much.
When he was 1, he was supposed to have
pretty much the speech
words.
Pretty much the speech level he has right now, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's doing better now. He's going They help him a lot.
How many kids are in his class?
I want to say maybe in his class there's 10 to 15, but every single day they have different classes, so there's a lot of kids.
Was it hard to get in?
He was on the wait list for 2 to 3 months.
Damn.
I have a cousin her son is also
Speech delayed?
speech delayed, and he's a month younger than my son, so he's basically kind of around the same age. My son, I have a friend who has a soon-to-be 3-year-old as well, and he's speech delayed too. So it's very common with kids that were born in 2020, which is when COVID first started.
Okay. Jackie, if I ask you, can you hear yourself talk? Can you hear yourself talk?
I can hear myself talk. So everything you just ask, the question you just asked me right now,
Yeah.
I can hear it in my head.
Yeah. So you have an inner voice.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you're like saying the word, I can say it back in my head.
Or even probably even predict what I'm gonna say next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I say, Okay. Do you think your son has an inner voice?
I want to say he does.
But you're hoping. But do you actually think he does?
I'm hoping he does.
Are you gonna ask him when he gets home? When you get home?
I'm gonna ask him.
Ask him.
Hopefully he says yes. Or hopefully he understands what I'm asking.
Yeah. If it does, give him some practices. Like tell him to try to think of the words in his head.
Yeah.
Even if it's just Nana. See if you can see Nana in your head.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Jackie. Thank you for the interview, Jackie.
Thank you.
Because they have such deficiencies in speech, these children will not be able to have an inner voice. A whole generation, the next generation, will not have the inner voice. This is the plan, to make people that cannot think for themselves. This also explains why they banned abortion. It lets you know they want to have as many dumb people as they can, people that cannot think for themselves. This also aligns with the prevalence of AI art, because the next generations will not be artistic. They will not be able to think properly. Just think of what we as humans can do. Think of the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, simply meditating, talking to himself to discover the very nature of the universe. Think of Einstein, his thought experiments that let us know the nature of reality. Think of Newton, how he observed the apple and how he came up with gravity by himself. No one needed to give him any information. By sitting and observing with the self, they were able to unravel the truth of reality. This is what they are trying to take from us. This is not something that can be taken lightly. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. This is about the human race. There will be a generation without humanity, controlled by a few, no better than robots. It is our duty to stop this. Our duty as humankind. What we must do is remove every single person of power in this place. Doesn't matter if it's Trump. Doesn't matter if it's Biden. Doesn't matter. They're all a part. This is a world order, not one side. You see how we fight each other? You have the white people trying to take over the Capitol. You have the black people marching through the street. This is division. This is so they can gain control. We have to come together.